The room felt too quiet. Inside Sing Correctional Facility, Officer Daniel Harper stood just outside a heavy metal door, holding a set of keys that suddenly felt heavier than usual. Behind that door was one of the most feared rooms in American prison history. A place many inmates whispered about. A place filled with stories. Some true. Some not. But all of them serious. Daniel looked at the clock on the wall. Time moved slowly. Too slowly. Another officer beside him spoke quietly. "Everything ready?" Daniel nodded. "Everything's checked." The hallway was empty except for a few officers standing still, watching, waiting. No one spoke loudly. No one joked. Because everyone knew what this moment meant. Then, from down the corridor, footsteps. Steady. Slow. Getting closer. Daniel turned. Two officers walked forward with an inmate between them. His name was Robert Hayes. He wasn't struggling. He wasn't shouting. He just walked. Calm. Too calm. That made it harder. Because calm meant he understood exactly where he was going. And what waited behind that door. Daniel swallowed. The air felt heavy. Robert stopped a few feet away. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Robert spoke. "Is it true what they say about this place?" Daniel didn't answer. He wasn't supposed to. But Robert kept looking at the door. "They say people never forget it," he added. Still, no one spoke. Then the senior officer gave the signal. "Open." Daniel stepped forward. He placed the key into the lock. It turned slowly. The metal door opened with a deep, heavy sound. And from inside, a strange silence came out. Different from the hallway. Colder. Still. Like the room itself was holding its breath. Robert took one step forward. Then stopped. He looked inside. And for the first time, his calm expression changed. Just slightly. Because whatever he saw, it was real now. Not a story. Not a rumor. Real. And just as he stepped closer, the lights flickered. Once. Twice. And then, the entire hallway went dark. Weeks earlier, Sing looked like it always did. Standing beside the Hudson River near Ossining, the prison carried years of history inside its walls. Officer Daniel Harper had worked there long enough to know that history wasn't just in books. It was in the walls. In the floors. In the rooms people didn't talk about much. Each day followed the same pattern. Count. Meals. Movement. Lock-in. Routine. Routine kept things under control. But Sing was different from newer prisons. It was older. And older places sometimes held things people forgot. Or chose not to remember. One morning, during a normal shift, Daniel walked down a lower corridor. It wasn't used often. Mostly storage. Old equipment. Closed rooms. As he passed one door, he heard something. A faint sound. Like a soft knock. He stopped. Listened. Nothing. Just silence. He shook his head. Old building. Old noises. It happened. But still. He made a note. Later that day, he spoke with another officer, Mark Stevens. "You ever hear anything strange down in the lower hall?" Daniel asked. Mark gave a small laugh. "All the time." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "I'm serious." Mark shrugged. "Old pipes. Old walls. Sound travels weird in here." Daniel nodded. But he wasn't fully convinced. Because the sound he heard didn't feel like pipes. That evening, during count, everything was normal. All inmates accounted for. No problems. But one inmate caught Daniel's attention. Robert Hayes. New transfer. Quiet. Observant. The kind of inmate who didn't draw attention. But noticed everything. Robert stood at his cell door, looking down the hallway. Not at other inmates. Not at officers. At the building itself. Like he was studying it. Daniel stopped. "What are you looking at?" he asked. Robert didn't look away. "This place is old," he said. Daniel nodded. "Yeah." Robert added one more sentence. "Old places keep things." Daniel frowned. "What kind of things?" Robert looked at him now. The kind people don't talk about. Daniel held his gaze for a second. Then said, "Just follow the rules. That's all that matters." Robert gave a small nod. But his eyes said something else. Like he didn't fully believe that. Days passed. Small things began to happen. Nothing big. Nothing obvious. But enough to notice. A light flickered in the lower corridor again. Longer this time. A door didn't close right away during evening lock-in. And twice, Daniel heard that same soft knocking sound. Always in the same area. Always when the hallway was empty. He checked it. Every time. Nothing. No one. No movement. Still. He wrote it down. Because patterns mattered. One afternoon, Robert Hayes approached him during movement. "Can I ask you something?" Robert said. Daniel hesitated. "Make it quick." Robert leaned closer. "What's in the lower hallway?" Daniel frowned. "Nothing you need to worry about." Robert nodded slowly. "But it used to be something, right?" Daniel didn't answer. Because that part was true. Sing Sing had rooms no longer used. Rooms with history. Rooms people preferred to leave closed. Robert stepped back. "Just curious," he said. But Daniel knew it wasn't just curiosity. Robert was paying attention. Watching. Learning. That made him different. And in prison, different could mean dangerous. That night, Daniel walked the lower corridor again. The air felt colder. The lights dimmer. He reached the same door where he had heard the sound before. He stood still. Waited. And then, tap, tap, tap. Daniel's heart skipped. It was clear this time. Not pipes. Not random. Knocking. He stepped forward. Put his hand on the door. Cold metal. He slowly opened it. Inside. Nothing. Empty room. Old equipment. Dust. Silence. Daniel stepped in. Checked corners. Walls. Floor. Nothing. He turned to leave. Then paused. Because for a brief second, he thought he heard something behind him. A whisper. He turned quickly. Nothing there. Just the same empty room. Daniel walked out and shut the door. But now he knew. Something wasn't right. The next morning, the prison received new orders. Robert Hayes was to be moved. Not to another cell. Not to another unit. But to a place most inmates never went. Daniel read the order twice. Then looked up. Because that location was near the same lower corridor. The same place. The same area. Later that day, he saw Robert again. "You're being moved," Daniel said. Robert didn't look surprised. "I figured." Daniel asked, "Why do you say that?" Robert gave a small smile. "Because I asked the wrong questions." Daniel studied him. Or maybe the right ones. Robert didn't respond. But his expression changed slightly. Like he understood more than he should. Hours later, they stood outside the heavy metal door. The one at the beginning. The one leading into a room full of history. Full of stories. Full of things people didn't talk about. Robert Hayes stood ready. Calm. But not fully calm anymore. Daniel held the key. The door opened. The silence came out. And just as Robert stepped forward, the lights went out. And from somewhere in the darkness, a sound echoed. Not loud. Not clear. But enough to be heard. A soft knock.